Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Goffstown School Board meeting. We are first having a public hearing, which I call to order at 7:01. We can stand and say the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so tonight we have a public hearing pursuant to RSA 198-20B-3A. The Goffstown School Board will conduct a public hearing to accept public input relative to accepting as unanticipated revenue a donation of financial securities valued at $250,000. Once liquidated, the anticipated $250,000 cash value of these securities will be used towards the Goffstown High School field renovation project. Scott, do you want to talk more about that?
Sure. As we've been discussing for a long time, the Goffstown field renovation project hopefully is going to start this week with excavation. But in terms of the funding for that, we were very fortunate, the district was, to receive a $500,000 donation from an anonymous private citizen. And that came in two batches over two calendar years. So last year, the donor gave pretty much a wire transfer of $250,000 in December, and now for the second half of it, for the second $250,000, it's going to come in the form of securities. So as I mentioned to you at our last meeting, we need to set up a brokerage account. Originally, we thought that was going to be with E-Trade. It might be through TD Bank Wealth Management, who is our bank. TD Bank is our bank, but we hope to have that set up. So once, with the board's approval of accepting the donation, we would then be able to receive those securities, liquidate them at the same time, and then the proceeds would go into the district's checking account for that project purpose. So again, this is very similar to what we did in November, late November, I believe, when we were anticipating the cash donation. This time it's just in the form of securities.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Scott? Okay, seeing none. I'll open for public comment on the public hearing. And I see none. So I will close public comment. If there's no other discussion, I'll take a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Heather?
Yes, go ahead.
Is there a requirement for this to be open for a certain amount of time?
Nope.
Not on this one, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Caroline. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. So next, I am going to call to order the school board meeting at 7:04. We already did the pledge, so correspondence, Brian?
Just a couple things this evening. We have a couple of printouts from the New Hampshire School Boards Association, so they're in here. And the one on top, the very top one, is for Lily. Because there's a new thing. Board members will probably remember from previous years. Every year, the New Hampshire School Boards Association does a scholarship. And any board member can apply for the scholarship for your child or a grandchild. And for the first time ever, student reps can now apply themselves. So I printed this, and I may have taken the action of highlighting the due date for you. So Mrs. Kohler will give this to you when this folder comes around.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, commendations, good news. Lily, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to start off with saying that the GHS girls basketball team is doing really well. They recently beat Memorial High School, who were undefeated. And there's a game tomorrow. They're playing Concord. And then there's a home game on Friday, and the girls are 4-1. There's a boys' home game tomorrow against Concord. The Granite State Invitational Music Festival was this weekend. And so basically, the entire select vocal got the opportunity to go to Guilford High School and perform with other schools around the state, which was really cool. We had an alumni panel last week, and so basically alumni from Goffstown High School came and talked to juniors and seniors about the college process and what college is like. NHS inductions are this Thursday in the theater. And midterms and finals for semester 1 are next week, so the schedule is a little different. That's it.
Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.
Anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
If I could just also add that tomorrow at Mountain View is the school-wide spelling bee. So congratulations to the 24 students who are representing their teams and will be participating in that tomorrow. We're really excited about it.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Scott.
Tomorrow is the public hearing for the school budget and the moneyed warrant articles, also for all the town, and that's going to be at 6 o'clock. I'm going to ask that GHS post something about parking in the rear, so if we have a basketball game and a public hearing, one at 6 and one at 6:30, that might be.
And the public hearing is in the theater, right, Scott?
Theater at 6 p.m. Yeah.
And what
Yep.
they're going to do is the tables are going to be down on the floor, right, Kim, not up on the stage? Because we have a performance that kids are getting ready for. Great.
All right, thank you, Scott. Anyone else? Commendations, good news? Go ahead, Rose.
I just wanted to mention, we've heard a lot about college visits and applications going away to college, and one just went out today, which was the office is, the guidance office is providing opportunities for other kinds of scholarships, and a lot of these were internships and working through the local community colleges. So it was interesting that it wasn't your traditional, everyone thinks about going far away for college, and this is looking at what's right here. I think it's not limited to that. Maybe, Brian, this is part of your report out. But so sorry, but it was really refreshing to see that there's really a diversity of opportunities that are being presented to the kids. The other thing is, I talked to somebody in a neighboring town, no town names mentioned. They had no idea about the New Hampshire Day. And I really like to commend the schools for making a big deal about it and it being fun. And all the students knew about it. It was hard for them to escape it. So,
Thank you, Retta. Anyone else? Commendations, good news? All right, seeing none, move on to public comment, which I see none tonight. So we need to approve the December 19th school board meeting minutes. Everybody have a chance to read them? Anybody see anything?
I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 19th, 2022 as presented.
Great, thank you, Shane. Do I have a second? Second. By Caroline. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
One,
One abstention, the rest is unanimous.
Dan was left right as the meeting started.
Right. All right, thank you, Dan. All right, committee reports, finance committees. We'll start with manifest. Caroline?
So I motion to approve the manifest of January 9th, 2023 in the amount of $1,480,882.67.
Second.
And second by Dan. Okay, go ahead.
So the breakdown is a total of $937,257.33, which went towards payroll and taxes. And then for special education, we had a couple of new out-of-district placements recently. So this is included in tonight's total. We paid just over $72,000 to Durham School Services, $53,000 to North Star Education Services. It appears that that is a semester payment, where some of these other ones are just for the month. Then we had Mount Prospect in a total just over $13,000. And there's a new name for Mount Prospect, which is Vermont Performance. So you'll probably see that on future manifest, but we listed both names on tonight's manifest. We paid $7,455 to Johnson ABA Consulting, and then $7,100 to Literacy Learning, $6,400 to the Home for Little Wanderers, and then $5,200 for Crest Collaborative. A total is $165,432. Then for our general expenses, we did have a pretty large payment to Goffstown Truck Center, which was $183,877, but that is 2 months' worth of transportation. Then we had our propane of $34,393. Electricity was almost $30,000. We paid out $10,000 for custodial supplies, almost $10,000. Well, sorry, no, just over $9,000 for our athletic trainer services. And then $6,100 for some office and classroom supplies. We did have to pay for our Mountain View Middle School septic tank to be pumped, and then some field maintenance at Mountain View. And I don't think we were doing any field maintenance at the high school.
Yeah, we didn't do the game field because it's going to
Okay.
be torn up, but we did do the practice
Got it,
field
the
and the softball field.
The practice field had some maintenance. And then a $5,000 payment for the wireless network project. So that total there was $289,358.65. And then, of course, our food and commodities was $15,077.31.
Great, thank you, Caroline. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Ellen.
Up under special ed germ school services, that's the bus transportation, is that 1 month? Over $72,000 for 1 month?
It is more than 1 month, but the way that Durham bills, they have to provide us with rosters. If they're late in giving us a roster, we don't pay the bill until we get the roster. So sometimes it's different. Out of district might be 2 months. The in district is the same month. So it's not consistent. There are times where Karen and the SAU, we've withheld the payment for almost 3 months because we haven't gotten the rosters. We need
held it
that for
longer.
reimbursements. So, so Ellen, the short answer is that it's a compilation of different months and different in and out of district transportation services.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, there's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, we are unanimous. Thank you. All right. Scott, you want to continue?
Yeah, so I'm gonna just, we've asked Kim to come tonight because Kim was she kind of led the Goffstown High School theater renovation project. We had a subcommittee that was formed, and Kim was instrumental in getting that going, along with Randy and Dawn. Dawn Tabor did a lot. She's our facilities supervisor. So what we provided you, what I asked them, I was out last week, and I knew that we wanted to start to take action, order some of the materials for this project now and not wait months because of supply chain issues. So Kim, if you don't mind coming up. So Kim and Dawn prepared kind of an overview of the project. And as you recall, the primary components of this project was to replace the seating and the flooring, and which includes the carpet. We wanted to paint the theater as well as to replace the lighting, and then take a look at the ceiling tiles at the same time, because while we're up there with a lift, and then what else could possibly, kind of be done with a $270,000 budget with, $30,000 in contingency. So this is kind of what the group came up with. The reason why we're here this evening, more particular why it's on this agenda, is that your procurement policy requires us to go out to bid on anything that's over $50,000. And some of these things, time is kind of the essence, but there are very few manufacturers or companies that do this type of work. You'll recall that, Kim, you had brought in a couple of samples of theater seating. There aren't like 20 different suppliers of this. There's a handful of them. And those who did respond and gave us the seating samples, those are the ones that we looked at. So really the ask tonight is that you'll waive your procurement policy, which would allow the district to put a down payment on getting the seats so that we can put them in during the summer, because things now are taking months and months, not just weeks. So we're looking to do that. But Kim is here if there are any questions. In A&F, we talked about this, and, the project in terms of the lighting, and Kim, it's my understanding that the lighting is not just the lighting that you would see here, because there are controllers that dim the lighting. They control it from the booth in the back, not just from light switches, which was kind of done, in the past. And also the installation of the lights, because you're using lifts in many cases. You're not just going up on a ladder to change a ballast, or it's more expensive due to the height as well. So that was. Is there anything else that came from the committee?
And it's a whole-scale replacement of the lighting system. It's not just changing the bulbs. What is in there is pretty much the original lighting structures that were put in when that addition was put on in the 1970s. There was a point maybe 15-ish years ago that the bulbs were changed. That is the only time we can recall that ever took place. And it is quite an endeavor, obviously, to get up there, especially when there is seating in the auditorium. So this will replace all of the lighting fixtures, both the overhead lighting, any of the side lighting. It will install emergency lighting along the aisles as well, which is not something that we have typically had in that space.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's also aisle lighting, and I forgot about that.
Yeah, and it will all be networked back together. It will be controllable from the booth, but it will also be programmable, meaning right now, anytime anyone wants to use that space, we have to provide individuals who understand how the current configuration is put together and is going to be able to run it, right? And lighting currently is run from the top deck of the booth. So typically, you have to have someone in here who is familiar with it to have that space operational. This will actually have panels where you'll be able to go in and click a button that you're holding a meeting there, and the appropriate lighting for that event will come up. So public events will be much less dependent upon having performing arts staff members present and or students who've been trained in running the space present. And currently, as you know, when you're in that space, that is as bright as it gets, ever. Which most times, many people from the public are coming in for a performance, and that's not something that's necessarily noticeable. But when you have a meeting in there, it can be very challenging. And it is an instructional classroom space. That space is used throughout the day for 3 dance classes, and we have 3 large group ensembles that frequently use it for different elements of their class period. And they would use it more if it wasn't cavernous. And then on top of that academic time, we frequently have students and activities in there after school, until 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. So there are times we have students and staff members who are in that space with that lighting for 6, 7, 8 hours at a stretch, which, as we learn more and more, we know that lighting and physical environment all has an impact on learning as well as one's well-being. So it's both a project for that public element of the space, but also as well for its educational use. And one of the things we quickly found as we looked at all of this is how interconnected all of these pieces of work are. So one of the things we had originally talked about was doing the lighting last summer, but that would have added an almost $30,000 price tag just for additional labor to do that with the existing seating in there. So we are working, the lighting company is going to serve as the project manager and attempt to coordinate all of this so that it can happen over a 2-month period for us. The sequence of the work would be that once we close it in June, all of the chairs would come out. The floors will need to be repaired. Once you pull 400 plus seats with however many bolts each into a cement block, that cement flooring is no longer going to be particularly usable or stable. So that will be corrected. Once that is safe to be on, at that point, they will come in and they will do lighting, they will do ceiling so that they can bring in the genies and move and go. Then we'll go back to completing the process of the floor, paint, and then put in the chairs. Ideally, those will go in mid-August and we'll be ready to open back up in the fall. We've chosen to kind of go with a black and gray neutral theme throughout. We wanted something that we hope will kind of stand up a bit over time. As you know, maroon is a very challenging color to find and match, and it just frequently is so we thought we'd go that way. We can provide some accents down the road. And there are some other additional pieces of work that I hope we'll be able to come back and talk about in the future that did not fit within the scope of the financial budget that we have for this. There are definitely some door replacements that we want to take a look at and think about in the future. There's storage issues that will continue to be a challenge for us. But a lot of excitement about this first step, and it's gotten to a point where I think any place we go, we're looking at the seats and we're looking, oh, these are those seats and this is that, and little things like polished concrete instead of, right now we have the tile, which is dirty and hard to clean. And we were at Guilford on Friday and they painted their concrete underneath, but it's already scuffed and coming up, and how do you get in and paint it? But if it's just the polished, nice concrete, it'll hold up, and we think some good pieces and choices have been made by the group, so we're excited.
Yeah. Ellen, did you have a question?
Yep.
Go ahead.
I've been looking at this, and I remember in past years the discussion about the storage and added space, not the current interior, but added. That is not part of this project.
No.
Okay. Additionally, and it says on, well, the page isn't numbered, second page at D. Storage is not part of this, technical infrastructure is not part of this, and the renovation of the bathrooms in the lobby area are not part of this. Can I take from this that we will, the school board will continue to have theater renovations, I'll put that in quotes because it's in addition, plus these other two renovations, in our CIP with a cost attached to it? And do we have any idea when that project would be getting done?
The bathrooms in the theater lobby are not on CIP.
They're not.
Storage is.
It was.
It was, I don't know if it still is.
It was. I think it was. It might have been removed because of the cost factor.
Yeah, it was so expensive.
About to double check.
And
then in terms of doors, door replacements are on a cycle. So both interior and exterior doors. So like that one, I have to double check our CIP, but at a lot of our schools, door replacements are on a rotating cycle.
But my concern is that I don't want the public to think this project does the total thing. And to please be aware, there will continue to be CIP totals, and I don't think it's going to be little amount of money either for a storage structure to be added.
No, that storage building, depending upon what we would go with. The last time that we were looking at this, we worked with an architect, we have drawings already done.
Right.
It was north of 400,000.
Right.
So now, I would have to think it's gonna, it would be even considerably more than that.
For storage.
I just want to make it clear for the public that I know listens to our meetings,
Right.
that this is not the end of the work we need to do on our theater,
Right.
and that these other three things will need to continue being on CIP and plan for us to be, I don't know how, funding it, but continue on CIP and plan for the future.
Thank you, Ellen. Anyone else have questions? Go ahead, Jenny.
I agree with Ellen because I think the theater is a very important place. A lot goes on there, both for the community and for academics, like Kim was saying. And we've only Band-Aid patched what's gone on. I know we've had to do things for safety and fix something here because of safety. And we haven't had, that I can remember in a long time, like a big project to get things really taken care of. And the gym is old. So I would really like to get our gym, our auditorium up to snuff. Our gym is very nice. Our fields are going to be very nice. And I think our arts kids deserve the same sort of thing. And I know this covers arts, covers band, covers theater, musicals. It covers a lot of kids with diverse interests. So I really think that we need to look at them and get the things that they need to keep their skills up and to be able to show them off well in school just as well as all of the other kids get to do. And we've only done patching jobs to fix this and that because we haven't had the money. So if we can continue to do projects like this to get that up to snuff and look really nice, I think that would be great. Just my thoughts of it. So I agree with Ellen as far as that goes.
Thank you, Ginny.
Costs money, but
Yeah,
sometimes it's worth it.
absolutely. All right, is there any other questions? Oh, sorry, Jared, I didn't see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to say thank you to Ms. McKinnon's leadership on this. I did attend the first meeting for when we went through this, and unfortunately I wasn't able to attend the second meeting. There is a great opportunity here as well. With the increased lighting, there's an opportunity that we can actually turn this into a classroom setting as well. I think it's important for those college-bound seniors. You're going to have auditorium-style classrooms, and I think that this is an opportunity where we can do those for the college-bound seniors, for seniors, juniors, but basically those that we know that are going to college too. Instead of having 3 classes teaching the same thing, 1 class in an auditorium setting. In order to do that, I know there's some technical limitations that we'd also have to go through. So I would recommend that we have Mr. Bourgier start looking at putting lines in there, either optical or something, so that we can have additional infrastructure for actual classroom settings in the auditorium. So that's one thing that I think there's a huge opportunity here, and I think that we should strike while the iron's hot. If we are opening up our conduits, if we are updating our wires, we include that in the plan if we can.
So Jared, would you call it then a large group instructional area?
The original title. You were reading my mind.
For 30-plus years.
That's what they
We were
LGIA.
Yep. It could not be called a theater for I think it was 30 years, right? Because of the original
grant.
federal grant
Yep.
funding, yep.
That's fine.
It had to be instructional space.
It's going to be the LGIA again.
Everything comes back around.
All right, Ellen, did you have another question?
No, I was going to make this motion to waive.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted, Scott, can you answer Jared's question, or?
Which question was that?
No, it was more of a statement that, if we open up the conduits, let's see if
Right.
Steve could actually run some wires so that eventually if we have to put additional routers out there because people are going to be connecting through their computers, through the wireless internet.
Right.
That's kind of a dead zone, especially if you're going to have 200 computers there for our students.
Right.
Something that we have to consider.
Yeah, and one of the nice things that we did a couple of years ago when we got one of those SPRFS grants, we put cameras in there and everything, so.
Yeah.
And those are mounted cameras, so that's another good thing. That- We've invested quite a bit in terms of making it an instructional space too.
That's the field.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so is there any other questions for Kim or Scott? So there is a motion just to waive a policy and to start for you guys to order the seats, so at least you can get that going. So if everybody's good, Ellen?
Yeah, I move to waive Goffstown School Board Policy DJB, Purchasing Procedures, and to accept the cost proposal of A-plus athletic products in the amount of $105,300 for the theater seating portion of the GHS Theater renovation project that will commence in June 2023.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second? By Ginny? Any further discussion?
I have one thing I'd like to say,
Yeah,
just so
go ahead,
that
Dan.
we're not kind of like waving a policy willy-nilly, and this is for the public. We did have the seats here for several months. I'm kind of, I was trying to advocate for lower tables and seats for all of us here so that we could have a very comfortable meeting,
Right.
but that didn't happen.
No.
So we do know the seats, we've seen the seats, they're great, and this makes the most sense to do it this way.
Right.
Because we've kind of already gone through the process.
Yes.
It's a limited sourcing, and so this will help.
Right. Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
So I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? We are unanimous. What was that? No, that's on a different one.
Yeah, that's repeated.
All right, so Kim, I think we're set. You can go
Thank
home.
you so much.
Thanks for coming tonight.
What happened?
All right, so the next one is accepting the private donation. So you can see that there is a motion, and we have changed it a little bit. So Caroline, if anybody has any questions on this?
Yeah, we changed it a little bit, just so everybody
To
knows that. It should
expend.
say accept and expend.
Yep.
Yep.
So Caroline, you want to go ahead?
I move to accept and expend as unanticipated revenue under the provisions of RSA 198-20-B, an anonymous gift of financial securities valued at $250,000 to the Goffstown High School field renovation project. Said securities to be immediately sold upon receipt, with the cash proceeds to be deposited into the district's bank account.
All right, thank you. Do I have a second? By Ellen. All right, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. All right, field renovation update,
Yeah,
Scott?
I'll give you a couple of quick updates. So the project, we believe is going to commence this week. Randy was alerted by the company that's doing the excavating, that, which is John Neville Excavating, that they'll be starting this week. So they'll be blocking off a few parking spots. So students won't be able to park there, but they need that for mobilization purposes. And that's going to start, they said this week they're going to start blocking it off. Initially, they're going to be removing some fencing. We'll be taking out the topsoils. It'll be about a 2 to 3 week project for that. We are taking down some trees as well. There's a decent amount of, our concern was that with high winds, with a lot of pines, we don't want a tree falling on the field. So we are going to be taking down some trees as well. Most of them are going to be on the far end zone type side. There's a few on the press box side, but we're just doing that just to, it's a pretty large investment. You don't want, a tree to topple down and tear the thing. So all of that's probably going to happen within the next 3 to 4 weeks. It's a pretty aggressive timeline, all weather dependent. So but it's moving quickly, and again, this is something that we have to have this done by August, so or earlier. And we believe it'll be earlier, but August 15th is the deadline before there's a penalty.
Right.
Because we have to have our athletes and our students participating in fall sports using those fields. So it's pretty exciting, and again, that's gonna start this week. I don't know if there's any questions on that.
Yeah, Ellen had her
project.
hand up.
Yeah, just, did we already do a groundbreaking picture?
We have not. I'm toying with doing it. We're going to have a meeting with our committee next week, and if you haven't gotten your emails yet, I sent one this afternoon. I think it was around 1 o'clock. So we're going to have a meeting here next Wednesday,
The 18th?
the 18th, and it's going to be either at 4:30 or 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So if we want to take a picture, I have to be here obviously earlier than 4:30. So more to follow on that one.
Well, we've done those pictures for historic purposes for
Right.
each of our schools.
Yeah, no, I think we'll do it. I just wasn't sure when they were, and again, if dirt's already been moved, then we'll just pick another area. We'll make it look like it. So. good photograph for you, Ellen.
Awesome. Anybody have any questions on that? Go ahead, Lily.
You said it would affect student parking. Do you know like how much parking and where students will park?
It's really the parking spaces that are, if you're looking at the field.
Yeah.
It would be parking spaces from the entrance, the main entrance to the field. So it's parking spaces to the left where they usually put the porta potties in the fall.
Okay.
And I think it impacts about 10 spots.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, an email went out, at least to parents.
Okay, cool.
A couple of weeks ago.
I know our dean of students.
Yeah.
Ms. Rosenmack, she's dealing with
Okay.
that, and so.
Cool.
That's
Thank
the
you.
impact there.
All right.
The other one is the MVMS bus turnaround. I spoke with Randy before the holidays, and we're going to be re-bidding that one in the next week or two. And that bid is, as you recall, the bid was a lot higher than we had anticipated in terms of the grant dollars that we had. So we're going to be bidding it for summer construction and both a grant project and a non-grant project. The reason why I say this is for those perhaps in the audience. When it's a federally funded project, you have to pay what's called Davis-Bacon wages, which is typically a much higher labor rate than you would, locally if it was a non-federal project. So that will then give you, I should say, as the decision makers, if there is a potential savings, do we not use the grant and use something else? So I think that's something that we have to, consider, and we'll take it from there. But last time around, the bids were over, I think they were between 200 and 220,000, and we had another 20,000 in engineering costs. So we were about $80,000 more than the federal grant that we had. So just so you're aware. And that was it. I forgot about one special announcement, and the unified basketball team is next Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
Nice.
It will be broadcast on GTV, obviously, yours truly, but I did want to let you know that it's next Wednesday, 3 o'clock, here at Goffstown High.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
I don't know the school. Sorry, I don't know that.
Wendy, did you hear that, who they're playing?
I know Concord is coming up. I know they have an away game and a home game coming up, and I know one of them is Concord. I apologize for not knowing which is which.
All right, so Scott, you're all set then?
I am, thank you.
All right. Budget Committee, Jared, Ellen.
Yeah, budget, Scott already stole most of my thunder. Meeting tomorrow, 6 o'clock. I would ask those members of this board who's going to be attending, because if we do have a majority, we have to make sure it's posted as a notice, even though it's a budget committee for a public hearing. So if you are planning on attending, just please let Ms. Moore know so that we can post appropriately if we do have a majority going to be showing up. I would also ask if the school board has a vote in all warrant articles that are money related at the budget committee. Normally, I advocate for just the school. I don't really hold a position for any town items. However, there are some town items that people might be passionate about. If you want to talk with me about those items, I'll be happy to talk with anybody on the board. But we do have a voice in town items if we so choose to exercise it.
Thank you, Jared. Anything else for budget?
Nope, so public meeting tomorrow, 6, and it's probably going to go till about 10:30 because we're talking school, town, and both water precincts. So it's going to be all in one-stop shop.
Wow, long night. Ellen, go ahead.
Just for ease, can we find out how many people are attending this so that?
I didn't want to say show
Well,
of hands.
if I
but-
may, it's kind of irrelevant, as the posting deadline was about
6
an
days ago.
hour and 40 minutes ago. So this would have to go under the chance meeting statute, which says, if you go there, please don't sit together.
That's the big
it.
one.
Yeah.
Don't sit together.
But it's
Yeah.
not
I
on
know nobody will be sitting
budget
with me,
committee's
so
meeting.
we're all set on that.
But it is helpful if board members can attend, because,
Yep.
and/or folks that you know, because this is an opportunity to, discuss the budget, and you always want to hear both sides of any questions or arguments or.
I know that we talked about the CRF funding and we want to get public input on that. So again, this is a prime time for you to listen to any public input that might happen for our CRF denomination amount that would be occurring.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jared. All right, C&E. Ginny.
CNE has not met. They will be meeting January 17th at 7 p.m. at the SAU.
Okay. PNC, Retta.
Yes, PNC did not meet this evening. Our next meeting will be first week of February. Didn't look at the date. And we will be discussing the website and communications. Also, I don't know when we bring this up, but I think we need to pose for a picture for the.
That's tonight.
That's tonight.
That's
Okay,
tonight.
good. Phew, check that off the list. Okay. Glad I brushed my hair.
Yes.
Me too. Me too.
So,
All right, are
did I
you all
tell
set?
Yeah.
Okay. Policy review has not met. We will meet next Tuesday, the 17th at 5:30, because Monday is a holiday, and that's at the SAU. SAU policy, Shane?
SAU 19 policy has not met since our last meeting, although I did talk with Mrs. Moore before tonight's meeting, and we will be putting dates out for a potential meeting to go through, I think, the last batch of our SAU 19 policies. So Dan and Heather, be on the lookout for some communications on that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Shane. All right, superintendent's report, that's you.
Thank you. So this evening, we do have on the agenda the approval of the snow calendar. I just want to mention what that is. So we did have a snow day on the 16th of December. So we have a revised current school year calendar that we'll just send you. You don't have to approve anything, but we just extended the last day and added the one snow day. So we'll send that out probably tomorrow, so you can expect to get that. I wanted to let you know, and it might be germane, particularly to Mr. Talbot, that the New Hampshire Education Department just released the new per pupil data. So that just came out. I was actually surprisingly a little impressed that they changed the reports. They have kind of a new visual that they use to show per pupil costs. So all of those materials are on the New Hampshire Education Department's website. And Scott, I don't know, at this point, I don't know if it makes sense to update any of the information to the Budget Committee, but I'll leave that up to you.
We're going to do it for the deliberative session.
Okay, thank you. So that'll be happening. Mr. Gross mentioned a little bit at the beginning of the meeting. I'm not sure if we were quite on camera yet, so I wanted to make sure that people knew. There is a statute that Mr. Gross found that any area school districts, authorized educational regional enrollment environment, are eligible for an additional amount of money per RSA. About what, Scott, a year and a half ago, Mr. Gross started this a while ago. He started chasing after, how come we've never received any additional money consistent with the statute? And Scott did not get a response. So despite writing a very eloquent letter and sending it to the department, there was never a response. So we were troubled and dismayed that we didn't minimally receive a response. So Mr. Gross filed a right to know request. So we did get a response, and we'll be interested to see the information presented to us. But at this point, we believe that there is an obligation by the state to pay us these monies that are owed. And we may need to consider further action on that at another point in time, but not yet.
Yeah, Brian, if I could just add, it was 3 letters, 2 emails, certified return receipt was one of the letters, and just never a response. And that to me was just, unacceptable. I mean, we're all in the business of education, and for the department not to even respond that we've even acknowledged it was just very, very disheartening. I will say that the commissioner himself responded to me when I sent it by email. I sent it by email and hard mail, and they said we'll get a response within 30 business days. So I just wanted to, it wasn't like just one ignoring, it was ignoring over a whole 8 months to a year.
And what exactly does this include? What?
The RSA is an old one, but it's never been repealed, and it basically says that area schools are entitled to receive, don't quote me on the amount, about $50 for every middle school student and $70 for every high school student. It's about $38,000 for Goffstown each year. So I put the request in for each for the last fiscal year and the year before that. So we're looking at between $75,000 and $80,000 of payment that I think is owed to us, and we have never gotten a reply. So we'll see.
So I can see why they're ignoring you.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is the statute was never repealed.
Right.
And no one seemed to be paying attention to this until Mr. Gross found it.
Right.
And so he inquired, and one way or another, I think we'll find out what we need.
We'll get an answer soon.
Good researching.
All right, go ahead.
I would like to see us seriously pursue this, not let it drop at all.
That's not a problem.
Okay. Would it be beneficial or a good practice for us to contact our reps to let them know
I
we're doing
did
this?
that already.
Okay, very good.
I carbon copied a few of our state
Okay.
reps, as well as state reps on the education committee and our state senator on it.
All right, go ahead.
Continuing on,
Yeah.
Mr. Gross already mentioned that the turf field project will be starting this month. That's very exciting. We have a draft calendar done for next year. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, but I'm waiting to see what Manchester does. You'll recall, and a little later on our agenda, we're going to be talking about the career and technical education extension with the Manchester School District. So there's a new statute that requires CTE centers to collaborate with the sending school districts to make sure that calendars are aligned. Makes sense. Even without the statute, we've been doing this for decades. So probably didn't need the statute, but nonetheless. So the calendar for next year, we only have the March election. There are no other local elections with the exception of an anticipated presidential primary at some point in time. So let me tell you what the calendar looks like that we've worked on. We have 3 professional development days before school starts. This is something that Mrs. Kohler and I have been working on. We have a number of projects. When we think about Schoology implementation, we are investigating a new math program that we are anticipating doing math training next year. So there are a number of topics, including school safety, that we would like to shift a little more focus at the beginning of the school year. We've been working with Ms. Underwood in New Boston to align the calendars. So at this point, I am inclined to ignore the presidential primary altogether, because we won't know what that date is until it could be as late as August or September. So what I'm going to do is we'll put kind of like an asterisk that will say, at some point in time, there will be a presidential primary. We don't know when that will be. When that is established, we will decide what we are going to do. That will likely be a remote day for us. So once we know it, we would plan for it, we would anticipate it, and we would just go forward with that. However, we don't have that date yet. So I wanted to let you know the calendar might be a little delayed, only because we have to now work with the Manchester School District, the Londonderry School District, and the Bedford School Districts to have their calendars aligned. The good news is ours is already done, so we can simply just give it to them and say, this is what we've already worked on. Why don't you guys figure out what you want to be doing? But the only other thing I will share is, as of right now, we are anticipating bringing you a calendar that would have students starting after Labor Day. Labor Day is early this year, and because we don't have the local elections, so think about what we had this year. We had a primary in September, we had a general election, so we had multiple days that we were contending with, and we won't have that next year. So that's kind of the short version of where we find ourselves on the calendar. And I'll let you know once I know more. Once I hear from Manchester as to what their plan is, because as far as I'm concerned, this is their responsibility to run this process. We'll let you know more. So a couple of other things. We have put in for what's called an extraordinary needs grant, which is about $30,000 for Goffstown. So this was additional money that was available for 87 schools, and it was based on reductions to free and reduced lunch accounts. So that's happening. Tutor.com, Mrs. Kohler ran a report. In the month of December, we had 34 students use the platform, which was a slight increase from November, 65%. And by the way, I won't do this every month, but because this is new, I thought I'd give you a little more information. And she's got a whole bunch of statistics. So there's lots of kids going on the platform. This time it was more high school. So we'll continue to track and monitor this. We applied for and received Beyond School Enrichment grants. So these grants, we've secured about $20,000, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Kohler for her work around this. She's got money to be used for transition and leadership activities at the middle school and high school, and these are really cool programs, and I'd like to, again, thank Wendy for her work around this. At Goffstown High School, a 4-day intensive will be offered for all incoming 9th graders in the area of graphic arts and photography. Both of these programs will provide a snapshot of the arts program at Goffstown High School. Another program that we'll be doing will be a 2-day student-athlete leadership seminar for incoming 9th graders interested in pursuing athletics at Goffstown High School, where students will be led by Goffstown High School coaches as well as current upperclassmen to learn about what it means to be a good member of a team. They'll learn about sportsmanship, the athletic code of conduct, and have the opportunity to be certified in CPR. Also, as part of this program, high school and middle school will offer a summer theater camp, which will be a 3-week intensive program for students, incoming 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students from the middle school and high school. Students will interact with members of the high school and middle school theater production program and will develop a production to be shared with the community. And then lastly, the middle school will be offering a 4-day intensive for incoming 5th and 6th grade students and a separate section for 7th and 8th grade students focused on STEM and robotics. So that's pretty exciting. Mrs. Kohler would be happy to answer any questions folks have, but again, this is us chasing after and successfully bringing additional monies in to offer programming that we don't have budgeted, so that's a good thing. I already mentioned the scholarship through the School Boards Association, so let's make sure that that's on people's to-do list, and I'm looking over towards the corner.
Got it.
Retta mentioned that there was a program that the guidance department was putting on. I've got a little more information about that, as she suspected I might. So they're doing a program called Future Focused Fridays at Goffstown High School, and the school counseling department is excited to provide students with a series of college and career presentations beginning on Friday, January 13th, with a series of events, and that they're calling Future Focused Fridays. So an example of this is the first guest speaker is a professor from the HVAC program and the department chair, Mr. Ed Curran from Manchester Community College, and he's coming to share information on an opportunity for our high school students to take a free HVAC course at Manchester Community College, which is a savings of $705 for students who take advantage of this. So they have a couple of other, I'll just give you a few other ones that they're working on. February 10th is apprenticeships in New Hampshire. So looking at advanced manufacturing, healthcare, construction, hospitality, etc., looking for internships and apprenticeships. And a couple of other examples are, there's a Manchester School of Technology event where they're going to provide an overview of all the programs, including cosmetology, that students are interested in. And the last one is an opportunity for high school students to learn how to earn free high school credit, and that will be on February 3rd. So those are just a few examples of what the high school is doing, and as always, I extend my appreciation to Mrs. Lewis, who is remarkable, and the wonderful counselors we have here at Goffstown High School. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey was administered yesterday. So Goffstown High School was selected, and that happened yesterday. Information went out to all parents, and anyone was able to opt out who did not want their kids to participate. And I apologize, this is a little long, but I've got a few more. So we're working on the modular classroom at Maple Ave. The board knows we have a number of concerns about space needs at Maple Ave, and so we're going to do some work to the modular. The majority of that will include new flooring. It is a very, very old, disgusting, nasty carpet, and it needs to be replaced. So that will be happening along with a few other things. We're going to get that space up and ready this year, and what we are planning to do is to put art out in that space. Right now, we have art on a cart. We have a fantastic teacher, and if she had a classroom with materials and space and places to dry children's artwork and appropriate learning environment, that she could do a considerably better program. So that's what we'd like to do, and then the program will be ready if we needed to put classrooms out there. So Mr. Gross, when he was away last week, we worked on some of the financials. The biggest cost is the replacement of the flooring, but you'll hear more about that. Goffstown High School.
Hang on, Ellen had her hand up.
Yeah, how does that then create space for the growing number of kids? Like fourth grade this year is pretty big numbers in each classroom.
Yeah, so it doesn't create additional space this year, but what it does is it gives us a dedicated art room, which will provide better programming. And right now what's happening, and this is something that is important to the teachers, when teachers have their planning period and students have, say, art, that art is happening in their classroom. So the teacher doesn't leave. The teacher doesn't really have any place to go. So this will also allow, instead of having students in their typical classroom for art, the students will leave, they'll go to the dedicated art space, and then that allows the teacher to have planning in their room to set out materials, get group projects going, whatever it may be. The other thing I will share, and I've mentioned this to the board before, and this has been, we worked on this as recently as last week. Mrs. Kohler and I met with Mrs. Milligan from the middle school, and just so the board knows, I have asked at the beginning of the year for the middle school, and this is an old ask. Wendy had old plans that I had asked her before, but I want the middle school to be ready if we needed to move 2 or more sections of fourth grade up to Mountain View. So we have that planning done. We're not going to get into a lot of the details on that, but that's the other piece, Ellen, that we've done. So enrollment at Maple Ave is a problem. I think everybody knows that. And, really, the modular doesn't get us additional classroom space, but it'll significantly improve the quality of our art program. And for my money, it's worth doing just for that reason.
And there are two spaces there. The same thing must be for music.
Music is also on a cart.
So could that be out?
We're not going to do that. It could be at some point. At this point, we think music on a cart is working. And programmatically, I think they would be able to do more if they had a dedicated space for music, but we're making it work. So we're going to start with the art is what we'd like to do.
And carpeting is the way to go for an art class?
It's not going to be carpeting. We're removing the carpeting. It's going to be VCT tile.
Oh, okay.
So no, we would definitely not put carpeting in. And with the exception of libraries, I'm anti-carpet altogether.
Oh,
So, and even here, it would take no convincing to have no carpet in this space for me. It's just, it's easier to clean, you can disinfect it, it's just, it's better. So that's the update on Maple Ave. High school lunch update. At our next meeting, we will have a presentation from the high school. And as part of that, I asked Mr. McBride to connect with Lily and other students, whether through student government, through National Honor Society. I want student voice. So I think that Lily and others have come up with a brilliant way to do that.
We have 367 responses already.
I know you do. So, I know you do. So the board knows we cannot do non-academic surveys without parent permission. We can't do an opt-out or anything. It has to be a signed permission slip for everyone who does a survey, and that is challenging, to say the least, to make sure that you're not accidentally collecting a survey that you don't have permission for. So we have the requirements that we can't do surveys, but the students do not have the same requirement. So my inquiry to Mr. McBride was, why can't the students do their own survey? And then, I don't know, maybe have a designee who happens to be sitting at the table speak to this during the presentation. So that's what will be happening. So at the next meeting, right now it looks like the really only downside is it's impacting our lunch sales here at the high school. So we'll have Mrs. Bizarro's input. I think she'll be coming, I hope, and we'll be able to talk more about that. So just a few other updates. We offered the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, better known as the ASVAB, 2 weeks ago at this point to sophomores. And the last thing I wanted to share with you was on Friday, December 23rd, we had a situation that there was no power at Maple Ave. There was also no power at the SAU. All communications were down, everything was down. And as a result, we did a distance learning day, a remote learning day at Maple Ave only for that day. And Mrs. Pishka had already gone and bought, I think, 85 breakfast sandwiches. She was planning a meeting in the morning. There were, I think, egg sandwiches to be had for everybody. So it was disruptive, but she did a great job. Mrs. Johnson did a great job. And just to give a little sense of what the teachers did, all classroom teachers, grades 1 through 4, offered literacy and math activities that students were able to complete independently, which reinforced practiced or known skills. They also had assigned assignments in the Unified Arts and a number of extension and enrichment activities. Every teacher communicated with families. They offered additional time and support. They had information in Schoology. So I've got, again, a whole big write-up here. Mrs. Pishka did a wonderful job, as always, and much appreciation to the Maple Ave teachers, because that was very disruptive to them.
Yeah.
And they were able to figure it out and make the best of it. So that's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions that folks may have.
Ellen?
Just real quick, what % of the kids actually did all that work?
I think it was ridiculously high. So what she told me was student attendance was taken and then revisited for students who chose to print out assignments and submit paper copies. Teachers were encouraged to be flexible and work around individual family circumstances. So they basically gave, I think what they did was, we took attendance live, and there were some parents who opted to print assignments and submit paper copies, and when they did that, they were also counted as present. So we were able to work through that. I think participation was really high. On that day, absences are kind of high anyhow, but pretty much at the middle school and high school only. Elementary kids go to school. That day, I only had 21 kids absent from Bartlett, 18 absent from Glen Lake, and the high school had 357, which is pretty high, but that's really not surprising. That's very typical. And Mountain View had 213 students out. So for Maple, it was not anywhere close to that. It was closer to the other elementary schools. And New Boston, which is a similar size school, we only had 49 kids absent from New Boston. So that day before vacation, again, it was very disrupted at Maple Ave, but attendance was strong.
I know I greatly appreciate the effort that it takes for staff to pull that together, to get it out. And I like the idea of using the remote learning when these things happen, but it's, for me anyway, it's important to know that a good percentage of kids are doing it and not just taking a day.
Well, and years ago, when they used to offer Blizzard bags,
Yeah.
there was an attendance requirement that you had to meet. That has been removed.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not concerned about the attendance for that day. And that day is a good example that if I would have closed school, then Maple Ave would have had to make up a day. That would have meant that we had buses on the road just for Maple Ave kids.
Right.
And you can quickly see how disruptive that would be, the costs associated with it, and just the inconvenience for families. So, my middle schooler's done, but my third grader at Maple Ave has to go back for another day. So that was, and again, it was a challenging day to say the least, but we didn't end up getting power back until, I think, around 1. So it really would have been impossible to have school that day. I would say another advertisement for why I want to have a generator program in all schools. So the generator program would be dedicated generator here at the high school. We already have a generator at the middle school. It's not big enough. But then to consider doing one portable generator that could be moved between the SAU, Maple Ave, Bartlett, and Glen Lake. That's kind of been the vision, and that's also in CIP. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for Brian? Oh, Shane, go ahead.
Thank you. My question isn't really for Brian. I'm going to go back to the beginning of your presentation here. Tutor.com. I'm going to ask Lily the question, if I may. Have you used Tutor.com yet?
I've been on it. I
Okay.
haven't used I haven't gotten a tutor, but I've been on it just to scope out, and I actually helped a friend figure out how to get a tutor. So.
And have you gotten any feedback from your peers about tutor.com?
I think I will get more once I start my tutoring through NHS, because I know that some of my friends who are in NHS have been recommending it to students who, can't come into the Grizzly Den or don't have a prep. So once I get inducted on Thursday, I'll get back to you.
Great, thank you.
Shane, if I also can mention, so every month I'm able to get a report from tutor.com, and as part of the report, it isn't just how many students and what subjects they're going in for, but it also does give feedback on what students are ranking, their experience. And last month, out of a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being highest, we ranked a 4.35 from our students who used it. They're also able to put their own thoughts and feelings on there as well, and it was really strong. I loved it. This helped me so much, comments that I was able to read from our students. So what's nice about that report is it's not just usage, but I am able to see the feedback directly from our students.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Shane.
Because obviously I'm in favor of this program. I'm just curious if the students are finding it useful and things like that, so.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, one of the things that I'm looking for is some feedback on the SAT prep courses. I haven't seen many students from the report utilizing that service yet, so that's something I'm interested in, perhaps putting out more advertising for families to know that that's out there beyond our students, but for parents to know as well, because as some of us know, SAT prep classes are extremely expensive, and to have this free opportunity, especially not only just for the courses and the modules they offer, but they offer a lot of free tests that you can take, and it gives you examples of where you need to study. So I'm hopefully going to be creating a small video that just gets more information out about tutor.com to families so that they're able to access it and know what it's all about.
And it could be that as we get closer to the March school day SAT, we might
Yes.
see more of that, so.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Shane. Anyone else for Brian before we move on? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. All right, so old business. So we have the CTE agreement. Did everybody get a chance to read through it?
So let me give just a little context here. We are being asked by the Manchester School Board to agree to this extension. Bedford is being asked and Londonderry is being asked. I shared with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent who's leading this program that we would discuss this at the board level. So I believe Bedford might be meeting tonight, and I think Londonderry is tomorrow night. So I expect our 3 towns will likely authorize us to do the extension. There's no plan if there's no extension. So I'm just being nothing but painfully honest here. And this is not my process, this is Manchester's process. But our agreement expires in February, which seems crazy to begin with. Why you would have an agreement end mid-year is ridiculous to me. So any new agreement that we would sign would have to be a whole school year and not ending mid-year. So that's what we're being asked, is because of this new statute, which is the outcome of this House Bill 1661, that we have to have our calendars aligned, that we're doing this. But beyond that, our agreement was going to expire anyhow. So I think that this was just an opportunity for us to get in alignment with House Bill 1661.
Does anybody have any questions?
Looking at the, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at this, I was just looking at the compensation. It was a little bit confusing to me what would actually be sent for the tuition to Manchester for this.
So the tuition is set by the state, and we also get money for transportation. So we have some challenges with transportation, but the amounts are set by the state, and we also get money for busing.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Ellen.
Is there any reason we should not approve this?
I can't think of any, because arguably, if we don't have a current agreement, our kids who are starting second semester,
Can't go.
potentially would be jeopardized. You know, I can't imagine that, I don't think Manchester would do that in any way, shape, or form, but they could. They could. So I don't see a downside to this, and I don't know what Bedford or Londonderry are doing. I spoke with both superintendents. They did share with me that their boards had questions, and I said, mine does too, and I think it's fair to, you know, talk about this and give, you guys have copies of the current agreement, the proposed extension, as well as this, there was an addendum that they had originally not sent out.
Shane, go ahead.
I would just echo what Brian said in that I would say that passing this is something that we need to do just to make sure that our students who are attending MST are able to continue. And again, I don't think Manchester would give them the boot or anything like that, but without an agreement, really anything can happen. So I think we should definitely do this. So.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
I don't think Manchester has the opportunity of giving Goffstown the boot. I'm reading this, and quite frankly, I was disappointed with how whomever put this together.
That would be the attorneys for the Manchester School District.
In not, because the first thing it says is by and between the New Hampshire Department of Education, so it's between NHED and other school districts, but there are a lot of inconsistencies in this particular addendum. I mean, if it was mine that I had to do at the state, which we do enough, this would not pass muster.
And originally, the attachment A wasn't even part of it. We just got that, and we sent that out last week at the end of the week. We didn't even have the attachment A.
At the end of the day, is it bad enough for me to vote no because of the, well, we have time to fix it up, but there's no time to fix it up. I mean, once you do that, it's our agreement, it's with all three school boards, it would have to go to the other school boards if we make changes to it. This is not a happy time for us. That's my comment.
No
I don't think they
disagreement.
did well. They do not get an A.
Yeah, if there's no other discussion and everybody's in agreement, we can read the motion.
I'll motion to authorize the school board chair to sign the requested extension of the Region 15 CTE Center Agreement to extend until June of 2024. And during that time, a group will be meeting to comply with the requirements of HB 1661.
Thank you, Shane. Do I have a second? By Caroline?
Just one inquiry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where it says a group will be meeting to comply, can you define group,
The
please?
group, yes, the group will be, consist of the Manchester School District, Bedford School District, Londonderry, and Goffstown. So we have to have
It says
representatives
that in the agreement.
from all towns.
Right, so it'll be our representatives from the SAU?
I think it's the chairperson. I think it says in the agreement, the
Mhm,
chairperson or their designee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically going to be Heather or whomever Heather would
Or the next year.
designate. I think I read something in there. I just wanted to make it clear within the
Yeah.
confines of the motion, because I
It
think
makes
it needs that, what the group means. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, and, yeah, go ahead.
One other thing, just because we do have a sending district of our own, is this something that we ought to share with New Boston because they do send their students to Goffstown High School?
In fact, I've mentioned it to New Boston, and I'll give them a report on Wednesday evening. And I think it would be, I don't want to speak for the New Boston Board, but I think that they would, I would speculate that they would say it's important to them that kids have the opportunity to do vocational, technical, career training.
Go ahead,
One
Dan.
other thing, thank you for bringing it up, Jared. When I did read through, I said, how come New Boston isn't part of this? And I think I asked Scott that, how is the payment to MST as part of the area
It's
agreement?
paid by Goffstown.
And it's paid by Goffstown, but it gets billed as part of the regular tuition model.
Correct.
And so that's why New Boston isn't a direct membership.
They go there through us. They go there through us.
So we
Yeah,
have
they
a
go there through
motion,
us
we have a
in our,
second. Is
but
there any further discussion? Any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining?
Thank you.
We're unanimous, thank you. All right, so new business, we don't need to
Nope.
approve the school board calendar, you're gonna get that out to us.
Yeah, we'll send that out to you tomorrow.
Okay, so staffing.
So just a few things. I'd like to extend my congratulations to Mr. Farley, who will be retiring from Goffstown High School as our curriculum coordinator. He's been here a long time. He is among the brightest people I've ever worked with when it comes to talking about teaching and learning. There is almost nobody who I have as much faith as I do in him in presenting to boards. He is an incredibly knowledgeable, really just a very steady employee for a long time. So congratulations to Kevin. And we have a nomination for Katie Nesbitt, who will be moving into a Title I position for the remainder of the year at Bartlett.
Okay.
Do
Go
we
ahead.
do them separately or together?
Why don't we do them separately?
Okay, I'll move to accept the retirement of Kevin Farley as presented with many thanks.
Thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second? By Ginny?
Just for giggles, it wasn't many thanks to retire.
No, many thanks for being here.
For his excellent job,
Right.
and he will be missed.
That
Yes.
got him to the retirement.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, all right, for unanimous teacher's nomination?
Yeah,
Yeah, motion to do that.
Yes, move to accept the nomination of Katie Nesbitt as presented.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. By Ginny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, okay, we're unanimous. All right, thank you.
thank you.
All right, other business that may legally come before the meeting? No, and we have non-public.
We do.
All right, so I'll need a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A32C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the public body itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant.
So moved.
By Shane, do I have a second? By Caroline, I'll do roll call. Greta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Caroline? Shane?
Yes.
Ellen? Dan?
Yes.
Heather, yes. All right, we're in non-public, so we're going to go down to the conference.